It's been a few weeks now since The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom released, and I've seen that most of you have been really enjoying it. Although not my favorite Zelda, not even my favorite 2D Zelda, I have enjoyed the amount of time I've put into the game. But early on in my playthrough, there was one thing that I couldn't help but notice, and I was surprised it was present. It's the fact that Zelda is a silent protagonist. Throughout the entire franchise, Zelda has always been a speaking character and has had written dialogue, unless I'm forgetting something. So to make her a now silent protagonist was surprising. There will be moments where she's technically speaking, moving her arms and her mouth moves, where she's explaining things to other people, but us as the player never actually get to read any of what she says. I'm honestly a bit disappointed because Zelda has almost always been a more interesting character than Link, given that she can speak, and I think that that's part of the reason everyone was so excited to have her playable, because they like her character. So to see her be reduced to basically a gender-swapped Link was a little bit disappointing. Speaking of Link, he is still around and also still a mute, but there is an actual reason behind it. There was also a reason in Breath of the Wild, but I think the reasoning here is a lot more interesting in Echoes of Wisdom. Funny enough, Link ends up being a more interesting character because we learn a bit more about his history, and it's kind of cool. They kind of hype him up a little bit, and honestly, I do appreciate that. Now it's Zelda's turn to be a plank of wood, I guess, but that begs the question. Why is Zelda a silent protagonist in Echoes of Wisdom? Well, after doing some research, I didn't find any concrete answers to this question, but there are a couple reasons that could have and probably did play a factor in this decision. It was revealed in an interview that when development of the game began, Zelda was not intended to be the playable character, but instead it would have been Link, just like always. Well, except that time they made Tingle the star, but let's not talk about that. Apparently the developers were struggling to find a way to encourage the player to use the echoes instead of just using a sword. They talked about taking it away at first and then giving it back later, but then they just ran into the same problem. Since the sword is so iconic to Link, it was time to shift direction, and that is when all eyes were on Zelda to now take that leading role. It's possible that, due to the original concept of having Link being the protagonist, that an early version of the script was already made, which already had tried doing most of the talking. At the very least, this character was already made to take on that role of the one who talks to both NPCs and to the player, and the team simply didn't want to make Tri's role less important by having Zelda talk. But what I believe is to be the more likely explanation is one that is far more simple. Tradition. It's a tradition for the Zelda series to have a silent protagonist. That sense of tradition could have been holding the team back from pulling the trigger of having a talking protagonist in a main series game. The Zelda franchise is very weird about its traditions. There are certain ones it's obsessed with upholding, and others that they have no trouble throwing out. This is a wacky franchise. It's also fully possible that the team was unsure of how to best write a story with a talking protagonist. The series has always been written with the goal of Link being, well, a link between the game world and the player. And to sever that link and create a more defined main character, it's possible that the team was unsure of their ability to do that. It's possible that early drafts of the script had a talking version of Zelda, but the team felt it didn't feel like a Zelda experience. Because of this, they might have just gone back to basics. I think this theory is a little bit less plausible than the second one, but I also still fully believe it's in the realm of possibility. Either way, it's always going to strike me as odd that they finally gave us a playable Zelda, only to make her silent. Don't get me wrong, I still love that she's here and center stage, but a part of me will always wonder how things could have been if she did speak. But, I don't know, what do you guys think about Zelda and the reason why she stayed silent in Echoes of Wisdom? Please sure to let me know down in the comments. I hope you all have been enjoying the game so far though, I know I did. Although that being said, I haven't actually finished it yet. I'm probably maybe only like 2/3 of the way through. Work keeps me pretty busy, so I can't dedicate that much time to it, unfortunately. And now I am going to have to put it on the back burner for a little bit because I gotta go play me some Shadow Generations. Anyway, I've been your favorite fruit kiwi. Until we meet again, friends.